Wait, don't leave. I promise this isn't just another piece of AI slop. This is a deeply researched, highly informative, and hopefully entertaining explainer. We put a ton of effort into the research here, mostly because we literally can't afford a fancy video editing machine. So if you appreciate the hustle, please hit that like button right now. Today, we are breaking down the absolute bizarre flood of AI-generated junk taking over the internet, and the massive platform-altering rule changes places like YouTube are rolling out to stop it. Let's jump right in. Have you noticed your feeds lately? Like suddenly, they're just filled with this weird, mass-produced content. You know the stuff, some bizarre image or a completely robotic voice reading a scraped article over generic stock footage. Well, we actually have this staggering data on exactly why this is happening. And trust me, it went from being just a minor annoyance to a literal billion-dollar industry almost overnight.
So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the rise of AI slop. Then, the faceless economy. Next, the dead internet problem. After that, the 2025 crackdown. And finally, how you can actually survive the new rules.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the rise of AI slop, from shrimp Jesus to synthetic junk.
This whole phenomenon has become so culturally dominant that slop was actually crowned the 2025 Word of the Year by both Merriam-Webster and the American Dialect Society. Crazy, right? But what exactly is it? Well, AI slop is basically digital content made with generative AI that severely lacks effort, quality, or real meaning. It's pumped out in massive volumes as pure clickbait, just to earn a quick buck. Think of it as the spammy, incredibly synthetic cousin of actual human creativity.
And this junk is so formulaic. It really has a few defining features. It's super low quality, and honestly, it usually completely misses the context of whatever it's supposedly talking about. It's produced in crazy high volumes by automated bots or content farms. The info, often completely hallucinated or just flat out fake. There is zero originality. And above all else, it exists for one reason: profit and attention. The goal isn't art, it's not education, it's just maximizing clicks on an industrial scale.
If you've scrolled through Facebook recently, you've probably seen something exactly like this. Surreal AI-generated images of, well, Jesus formed entirely out of shrimp. I know, it sounds totally absurd, but the crazy thing is, it actually works. This bizarre content generates massive engagement through a psychological quirk called the bizarre effect, where unusual, weird stimuli just stick in our brains. Scammers use these surreal, emotionally sticky images to completely hack recommendation algorithms, farm engagement, and build massive audiences literally out of thin air. By the way, if you have ever seen a shrimp Jesus in the wild, let me know in the comments below.
Moving right along to Section 2, the faceless content economy, the digital gold rush.
So, why are people doing this? Simple. They want to siphon off a piece of YouTube's massive $40 billion ad revenue pie, and they want to do it without ever showing their face on camera. Just look at this staggering stat. Faceless channels now make up 38% of all new creator monetization ventures in 2026. That is a massive 217% jump since just 2022. It went from a niche little side hustle straight to a default business model.
And here's the exact number that makes it all possible. 95 cents. Less than $1. That's how insanely cheap production has become. You can now produce a fully automated AI-generated video ad for under a single dollar. And look, when the cost of production drops to practically zero, operators can run these massive, high-volume arbitrage campaigns. They just churn out dozens of variations every single day just to see what sticks.
But the money these faceless channels make varies wildly depending on the niche. Look at this RPM, that's revenue per thousand views. A faceless channel in personal finance can rake in $20 per 1,000 views, whereas a quick entertainment short might earn around $1. So the biggest lever a creator has here isn't their charming personality, it's smart niche selection.
Okay, so how do they actually pull this off? Here is the highly automated workflow of a modern AI slop factory. First, you get your script written by a large language model like Claude. Then, you generate the visuals using an AI video tool, maybe something like Pixverse. Next up, you synthesize the voiceover using 11 Labs. And finally, the whole shebang is stitched together automatically in CapCut. Boom, done. A single operator can run hundreds of channels at the exact same time, pumping out content with near zero human labor.
Which brings us to Section 3, the dead internet problem. Bots talking to bots.
Now, what happens when the web starts feeling entirely automated and totally devoid of any human touch? Well, we enter what's known as the slop cycle. It goes a little something like this. Agentic AI accounts totally automate the posting process. Platforms like Meta actually reward this raw engagement with straight-up cash bonuses. Because of that, feeds get completely flooded with AI slop. This ends up burying authentic human content and pushes real creators completely out of the way. And on social media, it's just as bad. This has led to a massive 717% surge in made-for-advertising spam sites. These are pages that literally only exist to harvest programmatic ad dollars from major brands who have no clue where their ads are even running.
And it doesn't stop at weird shrimp pictures. It bleeds into highly sensitive topics, too. Bad actors constantly use emotionally charged political AI images, and they play both progressive and conservative sides equally, simply as a grift. Honestly, they have zero actual political allegiance. They are impartially weaponizing our emotional triggers purely as engagement bait. The goal? Grow huge audiences, manipulate the feeds, and eventually hawk cheap merchandise to whoever clicks. It is literally the industrialized exploitation of human attention. By the way, if you're finding this explainer eye-opening, go ahead and share it with a friend who needs to see this.
All right, let's get into Section 4, the 2025 monetization crackdown. The sheriffs step in.
The platforms obviously couldn't ignore this dumpster fire forever. Let's trace YouTube's evolving stance on this. Back in 2018, they started with mass spam removals. By March 2024, they required creators to put labels on realistic synthetic media. But the real climax? That happened on July 15, 2025. YouTube rolled out a massive policy update refining their guidelines to specifically target and ban inauthentic content from monetization. They essentially drew a massive, hard line in the sand.
The new reality is crystal clear. Let's look at what passes now. You can absolutely still use an AI voice, but, and this is a big but, you must have a human-written script, original editing, and unique insights. So what fails? 100% AI scripts paired with an AI voice, unmodified stock footage, and templated repetition. Basically, if your channel is just a copy-paste automated template, you are looking at channel-wide demonetization. No exceptions.
And YouTube is enforcing this using a really rigorous two-phase process. First, an automated AI scan analyzes upload patterns. It flags channels that are showing high-frequency templating or massive duplication. Second, if you get flagged, a manual review kicks in. Real, actual human reviewers look closely to see if your content offers substantial original value. If you lack transformative human commentary, you're kicked right out of the partner program.
Finally, Section 5. Surviving the new rules, the pivot to quality. While the gold rush of cheap slop is definitely ending, there is still massive opportunity for those who do it right. But first, we have to face the brutal truth behind the hype. Despite what those sketchy get-rich-quick courses tell you, only 3% of automated YouTube channels actually reach monetization. Yeah, 97% fail. And the data shows the most common failure point is quitting between months 4 and 6. That is right before the algorithm actually kicks in. It takes real discipline, not just pushing a button.
So the absolutely crucial point here is implementing these best practices for 2026. You should use AI for efficiency, like brainstorming ideas or generating voiceovers, but not as a total replacement for your brain. You have to add substantial original commentary and analysis. You need to inject your own human creative direction into the visuals. Oh, and document your creative process with drafts and notes. You'll need those to prove your authenticity if YouTube ever comes knocking. Ultimately, your focus has to be on high-quality, long-form viewer satisfaction. You must provide genuine value.
Which leads us perfectly to this philosophical takeaway from our research today. Just because content can be created in seconds doesn't mean it's right or important. Speed and scale are impressive for sure, but they can never, ever replace the actual human connection and value that audiences are ultimately looking for. I want to leave you with this provocative question to really think about. How will you adapt your own digital footprint and content strategy in this new era of AI? Are you going to pivot to genuine quality, or are you going to get lost in the sea of slop? If you found this explainer valuable, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next deep dive. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.